You know, frustration about this game seems a little bit high lately. Definitely seeing, thanks, for all the support in the previous video. I'm glad that, a lot of people seem to have enjoyed it, and seem to think that generally I did a really good job on that video. So, thank you for all the support and the continued patronage to the channel. Me personally, I like to raise a little bit of hype for the live streams because it's fun. It's a little bit fun to gather together and be like, hey, what's going to happen? Which character is going to be revealed? All of this stuff. And then they just post the news the day before, and because that's not the only thing that's going to be talked about on this live stream. There's going to be survey results. There's probably going to be a little bit about the future updates. There's might even be a little tidbit about Valentine's Day this year. So it's not like there is nothing that can be shown off tomorrow. I'm still not expecting a collaboration of any kind. So you can check out my previous video if you want to hear more of the discussion on that. But I have to say that it's really disappointing when they do show off the character just a little too early. Again, not a terrible surprise, because really, after the pattern that they've been going, where first it was the two Warrior of the Crystals for water and earth, and then they did Rizzle, who was the Wind Void character. It was pretty obvious that this was going to be the next character, but still, I would have preferred probably to wait for tomorrow to be announced. But sour grapes aside, what do we got here? So this guy is going to be our new axe-wielding slash-base character for the Thunder element. We knew that he was a Thunder elemental character before, so there's nothing too terribly surprising. And basically, status quo. Thunder map will be giving a little bit of bonus for HP and attack for Thunder-based units, so Lightning's going to be very popular, and we'll see how Earth characters can handle this new character. Now, personally, before we talk anything about this guy, I am just going to go on record as saying I am not interested in him for a bunch of reasons. One, it's just been way too many 100 cost characters in a row. Two, while I have had pretty good luck getting the last Void character, I'm not really expecting that luck to continue. And even if he's just not super that interesting to me design-wise, and Thunder is not an element that I'm particularly prioritizing. So overall, not super not super hyped about him for myself, but let's see if we can generate some hype for other people. So Beiga, the Thunder-wielding Axe Maniac, has everything for a master ability you would normally expect, plus Thunder attribute attack for himself up by 15, and AP acquisition for himself increased by 30%. So basically he has he's going to be like a attacker, and you can see that from his jobs. A new main job, we'll see about that, but again, expecting it to basically be a physical based attacker. Also, secondary job is Ural's job, which is pretty good. Ural actually is pretty damn good. I don't really talk about her enough, but I do think that she is worthy of some praise. I'm going to give her some praise and say, yeah, absolutely. I think this is a good get. Dragoon is interesting here because Spear doesn't synergize with his damage at all. It's not a newer base job. It has been updated, but one of the things it seems to have gotten the most is healing. Jump ability is not super great. Sometimes has some boosts, but honestly, I'm already kind of calling it that you're probably just going to keep him on his main job. Maybe his secondary job, Ural's, if he's just really hard up for damage. Taking a look at the details we have on his kit, as I check my notes. Limit Burst will remove all enhancements from targets within range, which is a pretty good buff. For him, essentially, like it's essentially a debuff for the allies, but it's a good bonus for him. Being able to remove that's quite strong, and it is on an AoE. Now, notably, this is an AoE with not too terribly much flexibility because it's just in that spread pattern directly out from him. You can see right here. And that requires him to be quite close. So, but for this limit burst to really be too much of a thing, it's going to have to be dead. Like, he's going to need a way of surviving to get very close to the opponent, because otherwise this thing will not be as super useful as we want it to be. Also causes the Berserk status, though, which is interesting because lightning isn't the element that strictly has that before, so it's usually fire that has possession of Berserk. This might be just more of a character thing than a elemental identity, but a strong, definitely a strong status effect that could mess up your opponents quite nicely. As for his second attack, Extinction, which increases his own slash attack resistance penetration for 3 turns and damage to targets within range medium. It is a big AoE, and it is a different style AoE. It's not a full rhombus, but it has a particularly high amount, so it seems pretty good still. Also CT down small for the opponent, so a little bit of a speed advantage maybe for your team. A good one. A good ability overall, and I'm pretty happy with it because it at least has some range on it and some flexibility. So I'm going to say that this is pretty good. Now, as for his last one, which I'm not exactly super sure on this, but Resentment from Hell. Hell of a name. Raise strike and magic attack resistance centered around himself for 3 turns, and also gives him re-raise. So re-raise is going to be his saving grace. Now, is this particularly good? I don't know. Rurugia has a pretty big advantage over this character already, just from the secondary attack, and Rurugia has been showing better signs since he's been upgraded to his 140. I wouldn't say he's part yet of the Earth Core, but maybe this is going to be one that necessitates it, because characters like Mashuri and Oberon can deal a high amount of damage, but don't particularly have the best way of dealing it, before I say that any further. Oberon, I think, just let me see. I'm just gonna keep recording while we do this real quick. Noctis also has the ability that could potentially deal with this. I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of like how good he can be into his worst matchup. From what we know, re-raise is a good thing for him trying to get in close and being able to use that limit burst, casting Berserk, even though he's never going to be a high faith unit. Because I doubt that will help his survivability. I do think that it is pretty good. No, Wotv Calc, I would not like to update right now. Like, Oberon, who is one of the most common Earth units, has ways of like 100% hit chance, giving Lightning Killer and breaking Physical Barrier, but doesn't have a good way of dealing with that. As for Mashuri, who is another character, she can absorb part of the damage done, break magical barriers, increase summon gauge, spirit penetration, give herself auto revive, but doesn't have a particular good way. So Rurugia definitely has a little bit of an advantage here, but re-raise isn't the most scary thing. Sephiroth, I think, can deal with this character quite handedly, unless he has a ton of HP. So here is my thoughts. If this character has some potential ways of healing in his kit, that will make Dragoon much more valuable and interesting prospect. If he has particularly, like, Ural is not the character that I am the most familiar with. So if I just take a look, or Urel, sorry. Urel has 200. In her Urel's main kit, she did have guts, but I very much doubt that this character will be getting guts and re-raise at the same time. That would be notable, but I think they would. They'll mention that, but that just seems too much. Dispel guts was something that was in there, decreasing agility, modifiers if certain status effects are active or statuses are active, and breaking physical barriers, and move to unit panel. So there is the potential that I think that Urel's could be interesting for utility, but re-raise definitely gives him a notch towards survivability. It's going to be whether or not he can really match up against some of the better DPSs like Reagan, Bradley, as well as Sephiroth. All of those characters have really big survivability tools, either in their resistances. So whether this character can match up to that will be a large determining factor if he really is that good. I mean, it's a Warrior of the Crystal related character that's a 100 cost, so I think that it's very likely that he will end up being quite good. But I'm also just cautiously going to sit back a little bit and see where or where not it turns out. As for the fact of just he's an axe character, geez, I don't even it's been so long since we've seen an axe-based character that I can't think of what group they're even in. I'm just checking. They're under spears? No, they actually are their own classification of axe, barbarian, king, and battle axeman, and there just isn't really that many axes. So I'm worried about whether his vision card will be encompassing enough to be super interesting. It's going to have some good thunder synergy or at least some good slash synergy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really, really even still on the fence about this because, like, just for what has come out, you need a lot of survivability. Sephiroths are still everywhere. There's a good amount of Earth teams already, and even if, like, is it better than the magic-based plan? On global, there's a little more cause for concern because, like, Bunny Resnick is like a thing that can mess over the magic team way more than JP currently can. So, like, if you already have invested so much into the Thunder Magic team, I don't think this is really going to make you switch sides. And if you already have Lightning, maybe an interesting partner, but that vision card next week I think is going to have to be pretty good too to really sweeten the deal and flat out take Cloud out of it. Either way, next week we'll have all the full details, testing, and all that good stuff on this character. But me personally, I think I'm going to use most of February as a chance to recharge my batteries because I am definitely worn out after the number of 100 costs. And if you don't believe me, well, when it gets to global, we'll see how you guys feel by the end. My camera is a bit dirty. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and see you potentially tomorrow for the live stream.